Welcome to Secret Podcasque, hosted by Dustin White.
Welcome to Secret Podcasque. We are here with a very special guest today. His name is Paul Nicklowitz, and we are going to talk about a puzzle that is, out of looking at all the puzzles made up of The Secret, I think this one is the one where we are surest that we figured out the city of where this casque is hidden. It's emblazoned right in the middle of the painting. We have the silhouette of City Hall. We have the rebus of Milwaukee. We're talking about Milwaukee, Wisconsin today. And Paul, welcome to Secret Podcasque. And how's it going, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to chat with you today. Milwaukee, I love Milwaukee. I've been out there one time. I wish I could be out there a lot more often. It's just kind of far away from my house, you know, like many of us studying The Secret.
Sure.
How close are you to Milwaukee?
So I am probably a 3.5 hour drive from Milwaukee. I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and we can actually take ferries over Lake Michigan to Milwaukee. But the only time that I've been there, it was just this past year. My wife and I decided to make the drive. So we went through Chicago and just went up and spent a weekend there, maybe 3 days or so. So
Right on. Well, that's very cool. So as many of you know, this is the puzzle that was nearest and dearest to our friends, our good friend, John Michael.
And 90 more.
Uh-oh, what's that sound?
That is Alexa, and I don't know what she's doing. Alexa, stop that. She's losing her mind. Okay.
No, it's really cool, man. Anyway, this is the puzzle that is nearest and dearest to the creator of the Secret Podcasque's heart, John Michaels. You know him and cherish him in your heart like I do to this day. But yeah, so you've only been to Milwaukee one time, like me. So we got that in common. But there's so much to explore in Milwaukee. There's a lot of places that people look. What area in Milwaukee has caught your eye?
So I think, the most notable thing to me was the 92 steps. So Lake Park, right? It seems to be the general consensus for where this casque is located. But it hasn't been turned up yet. So there's a lot of theories around, other locations. And what we did is just kind of walked around and I just looked at points of interest that, I had found from going on Google Earth myself and took some photos. And so it was Lake Park mostly, but we went to, like Pure Marquette Park.
That's over by the...
It is. Yeah, it's right across the river from the City Hall.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just kind of went all over the place and checked out places. We went to the Pabst Mansion. That was really cool. We did like the tour through the mansion there, and there's some pictures that I got there too. So yeah, it was mostly. I would say Lake Park is like the area I'm mostly interested in. From the verse.
Cool, man. Yeah, I've been interested in Lake Park as well. I've dug one hole in Milwaukee in Lake Park, so. I'm hopeful someone can find it there someday, but we'll have to wait and see, won't we?
You dug in Lake Park, you said?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yep. I'm I can't say everybody go out and dig willy-nilly, but as long as you return the grass and soil and everything to its original state, I mean,
what's the harm?
The instructions in the back of the book said you may proceed directly to the site and try your luck. So I know a lot of people don't treat the land respectfully. When I was there, right in front of one of the lions, there was a giant hole that was unfilled and made me very, very sad. and I was getting eaten alive by mosquitoes that night, so we didn't fill the hole in. But it is what it is.
That's too that some people, don't clean up for themselves.
Yeah, so you mentioned the 92 steps. So that is taken from, I believe this is verse number eight. Yeah. And so do you want to read the verse, or would you like me to read the verse?
Oh, I can read it.
Go for
So
it, man.
it starts out, view the 3 stories of Mitchell as you walk the beating of the world at a distance in time from 3 who lived there, at a distance in space from woman with harpsichord, silently playing, step on nature, cast in copper, ascend the 92 steps, after climbing the grand 200, pass the compass and reach the foot of the culvert, below the bridge, walk 100 paces, southeast over rock and soil, to the first young birch. Past 3, staying west, you'll see a letter from the country of Wonderstone's hearth. On a proud, tall fifth, at its southern foot, the treasure waits.
It's still waiting.
It is still waiting.
It's over there
For
somewhere.
40 years, it's waiting, Dustin.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, this is the 40th. I guess it's the 40th anniversary this year when we get to November of The Secret. And I mean, it's so convincing when you're looking at this puzzle in particular to be like, okay, we know it's Milwaukee. And a lot of things point to Lake Park, and we can make everything work. But why aren't we finding this thing? Like it's I don't know, this puzzle more than any others. Like if you're looking at like New York, it could be in like literally
I know
30 different parks.
Yeah.
This one seems like is if you're using this verse, it's super convincing to convince yourself and others that it would be in Lake Park. I know I have friends that search in Milwaukee using the same painting, of course, but different verses. And so, maybe they're right. But when we're reading it, it really, it's hard to imagine for me anyway, because I believe in this verse too, that the 92 steps is anything other than the grand staircase at Lake Park.
Right. Yep. It was really convincing being there. And there's, for some reason in the community, there's been a lot of talk around, is it actually 92 steps? Is it 96 steps? Is it like someone who was even like adamant that it was 93 steps that I saw recently? It's 92 steps. My wife and I counted it. It's 92 as you ascend from, you can't count the bottom 4 steps, but it is 92 all the way to the top from that point on. So that's one thing that's the one thing I remember from talking with John Michaels, the 1 or 2 times that I did, it was around those steps. And I remember just like challenging him and being like, why aren't we, if this is the right place, why aren't we using these bottom 4? I don't have the answer to that. But I think just being there and seeing the park and just making the connection to the verse and some of the other things that are part of the puzzle, it was pretty convincing that if this is the correct verse, this is probably a area of interest.
Yeah. So you're looking at Cleveland. Cleveland has stairs going up to it from the road. And why aren't you counting those steps when it says 7 steps up and hop and take a hop or whatever it says? Also, when you're looking at Cleveland, there's a couple of steps in front of the steps that you're supposed to hop, kind of just like this. And so I think Byron wants you to find the exact right thing and start from there. So that's what we're kind of looking at here. I
agree with you, actually. Yeah, that's a good point.
So here we have an image of you standing in front of that grand staircase, and it is a beautiful piece of architecture, and the way they built this whole area up, including the bistro building up above. What did you feel when you were standing there? Did you feel like, hey, this is where Byron Price was standing at one point?
Yeah, definitely. I had spent so much time looking at pictures and images on Google Earth. Just being there in person was cool to me, just knowing I'm pretty sure this is what he was doing, and I'm somewhere in the general vicinity of where the casque is. And that was a cool feeling. I really hope to be able to visit some more of the cities. This is actually the only one that I've physically gone to, and I probed an area I'm not going to say where, but I have probed and looked and got photos of something that I've hit in Milwaukee. But I'm not going to elaborate on the detail there too much.
Yeah, well, you could give me photos to share of your probe, not of like the area, but of what you may have found. So we'll look at those in a few. I love this view from the top of the grand staircase looking out at Lake Michigan. I don't know if you know this or not, but I don't know if it was visible from here, but and I don't know if it has anything to do with anything, but when Byron Price was here, there used to be like a big concrete platform out in Lake Michigan called that someone had vandalized in the past, but they put the word love on it, and it was known as the Love Rock. And Byron would have at least seen it. And I haven't got any, like, if he was there, right? But I don't have any connections to the painting in reverse with the Love Rock or anything, but I don't know, just thought I'd throw that out there because that was probably something that's not there anymore that Byron may have seen at one point.
That's a good point. I think there was a picture that I saw recently of that too. Did you happen to share a photo, Dustin, or maybe someone else in the community did? But I believe I saw a photo of that recently, and I didn't know that was right across from the staircase. So that's cool.
Well, I'm not sure that it was right across from the staircase. It was somewhere in this vicinity. Like, it may have been past one of these trees and not be able to see it from here, but he would have seen it at some point because it was just off the shore of Lake Michigan and the beach there next to Lake Park. So,
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, beautiful park, beautiful scene for like him picking a place to hide a buried treasure. Pretty cool place. So
it really is. Yeah.
Let's go to the next image you've got.
Yep. So I had to get a photo of next to one of the lions. So that's me and my wife just walking through the park. I'm forgetting which lion that is as you head towards the lighthouse, but
that's like that's the opposite lion that I like. But this is the one I think so I'm you can see the lighthouse there. So the lighthouse is in the middle of the Lion Bridge, so you would be on the eastern section of the bridge.
That makes you're right. That makes sense.
And so they say this bridge is haunted. Did you encounter any ghostly activities while you were there?
I did not, and I did not know that. Can you fill me in on the details behind that? Why is the bridge haunted?
I don't know. I watched a video on YouTube of people out there at midnight or late at night sometime trying to detect these ghosts. I don't know.
Okay.
Pretty funny though. But real iconic place to go if you're gonna search for the secret or search for anything connected to the secret in Milwaukee. You have Josh Gates and James Renner standing at the lion just to the north of this. And I think that's when Josh Gates said, "Hey, she's the lion." All right.
Yeah.
Is she the lion?
I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
There was one time John Michaels was telling me that he was talking to John Jude Palancar about just how he had, because John Palancar, I guess at that time hadn't been bombarded with a lot of like people of telling them like their ideas and stuff. And he, John Michaels, when he got, in front of him, I think it might've even been some of the initial planning for the tribute. I'm not sure, but Palancar told him that, or he was showing him pictures like, "Hey, this is what we think for all these places." And John Palancar was super impressed with everything he had been presented with. And I think so. John ended up showing him one of these lions, and I guess Palancar went like really quiet and was like, "You need to dig. You need to go there and dig right now," or something like that. And I was like, maybe it was Palancar messing with him because he's very famous for doing such things. But maybe it was because maybe he's like, "Oh, I haven't seen a picture of that lion in almost 35 years or whatever it was at that point," and that's ringing a bell. And fill in your own assumptions from there. But I mean,
that's an interesting response though. Like, you need to go dig right now, like
something like that. I did. John told me this probably like 2.5 years ago or something. So I was just like, wow, that's really compelling. From the guy that made these the paintings. But
Yeah.
at the time, John Palancar may not have known there was 8 lions. He might have thought, well, I got a picture of a lion, and
That's true.
the lion, so it complicates things with there being 8 lions.
Oh yeah, it definitely does.
Yeah. All right, so I'll go on to your next image here, and we can see where else you went as far as your trip to Milwaukee. So what's this?
So this is a tree that's in Lake Park that I took a photo of because I think there are 5 trunks, and I was thinking of that, the tall, proud 5th line, and it just it reminded me of the cape, the woman's cape, and if you remember from the painting, there's you can almost see tree trunks. It looks like they're tree trunks at least coming out of her cape. So I just thought it was cool. I just took that shot. That tree is right north of the lighthouse and pretty much would not make sense in my mind for the casque to be there, but who knows? No one's found it, so.
Well, it's good to at least point out if nothing else. I'm glad you took a picture. It's a pretty neat tree.
Yep.
So that's just north of the lighthouse. Let's see what's next on your list or on your what you got here. So who is this?
So this is the statue of, it's called the Immigrant Mother, and it's in, I think it's called Cathedral Square Park, downtown Milwaukee. And this one's just really interesting to me, just looking at the shape of the woman and the cloak over her head, and just it seems similar to the painting, the woman in the painting at least. So just figured I'd swing by there and get a picture of that. I'm not sure if anyone's probed or dug this location before. I couldn't use the verse to make sense of why it would make sense for the casque to be located anywhere in that park. But
yeah, I know for certain people have dug and probed in this park, and it's because they use a different verse.
Oh, okay. That would make sense because I think, is it the Lane 222 verse?
Yep.
Yeah. Because I'm pretty sure she is the only statue in that park. So
yeah, I mean, it's a good idea. I love what they do with it. I would love, I'm talking to you today about something that I'm already in agreement with. I think the casque is likely at Lake Park. I think the casque is using, or I think the treasure hunt for this one is using, image 10 verse 8. But I would love to chat with somebody that believes in, using, I think that's what, verse 5. So using verse 5 with in Milwaukee, please contact me and we'll chat about it sometime, because why not? I mean, it hasn't been found, so let's chat. But back to your adventure. Cathedral Square Park. You can see the city hall from there, right?
I believe you can. Yeah, I don't remember specifically trying to look for it from the park, but it's very close to it. It might be a block or 2, maybe more than that.
Yeah, from a certain perspective, you can see the city hall and the that statue. So
gotcha.
All right, so here's a picture of a painting that you're sharing with us. What just what is it?
Well, this is one of the paintings that's in the Pabst mansion. So while my wife and I were going through, we're walking up the staircase, and this just happens to be right on one side of the landing as you're ascending, going up to the 2nd floor. I believe it's between the 1st and 2nd, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm thinking about the woman with harpsichord line, and there's a woman at least playing piano, or I guess you could say harpsichord right here. So the whole woman with harpsichord part of the verse, I haven't been able to make sense of that. To be honest, I haven't been able to make sense of why you end up in Lake Park anyway, from the start of the verse. But I just found, as we're just casually walking through that building, I happened to stumble upon this painting. So
yeah, well, it's a keen eye. Your mind is always open to the possibilities with the treasure hunt. So I applaud you for at least taking a picture, even if it has nothing to do with the treasure hunt.
It's a blessing and a curse, Dustin. I can't look at anything anymore without thinking about the secret. It drives me nuts.
I know. I know how you feel, man.
Yep. So
all right.
anyway,
Let's
So this is just another cool picture that I shot from the Pabst mansion. This is a vault that's somewhere in there, and I hadn't heard of it, hadn't seen any photos of it before, so I just snapped a quick picture and figured I'd share it with the group. Not sure if it has anything to do with the hunt or not, but there's some interesting designs, and really not sure what the painting is of on the door, but
Looks like a paddle ship or like a stern wheeler kind of boat.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it could be completely unrelated, but just figured I'd capture it.
Yeah, it's cool. Let's see what your next image is that you got to share with us. All right, who is Millie?
So Millie is one of the famous ducks from Milwaukee. Are you familiar with them? Or
No.
So I'm really not either. I just know that there were at one point there were like a group of ducks that were like making news headlines in Milwaukee. I'm not sure why they were at the time, but there's statues of ducks around, and obviously, like, you can see the date on this one's 1999. I don't think it has anything to do with the hunt either, but
pretty cool.
It was, yeah. I mean, the ducks, the actual story behind the ducks could have something to do with it. I don't think it does, but they were from like the 50s, I think, 50s or 60s maybe. But yeah, it's just a picture of my wife standing next to one of the ducks.
Right on. That's cool.
So I think that's, yeah. Yep. And then, so that's on a bridge that we're walking across to the west side, across the river. And so we ran into Pure Marquette Park after that picture. So that's what you see in like the sequence next is the picture of the Pure Marquette statue.
Gotcha.
Yep. So yep, there's Pure Marquette, and then
yeah, I've never been to that park, but yeah, super cool. I know it's really close to City Hall, so
it is. Yeah, that's why I wanted to go over there and capture some pictures. So this picture is of a clock that is right next to Pure Marquette Park, and the whole like clocks kind of have this recurring theme throughout most of the paintings, right?
Sure.
Actually, the Milwaukee one doesn't have it, but I found it interesting that you know that clock just has like unique shapes and designs on it, and I wondered, you know, well, maybe it does have something to do with the hunt, maybe it doesn't, but that is right in like it's very close to the statue of Father Marquette in that park.
Very cool. Right on. So let's go to your next image and see what you got.
Okay. So before we jumped on, you were saying to me, Dustin, you're not familiar with this statue in particular, right?
Nope.
So this is in, gosh, what is that park called? Now I'm drawing a blank on it. But so what I did is, you know, after like running through so many different like theories in my brain of where the cast could be using verse 8, I started using verse 5 actually. So I'm familiar with verse 5 and beneath the only standing member of a forest. This is the only statue in a park that's like a little ways south of downtown Milwaukee, and it's off of a road called Forest Road. So, you know, the only standing member of a forest I thought might be, if Lane 222 is the right verse, like this could have something to do with it. The other thing that's interesting about this statue is it says on the back side, I think you can see it in the next picture too, it says something about how she's silently observing the progress and growth of Milwaukee. And I'm thinking, like, you know, the word silent is triggering my brain to go back to verse 8, and I'm like, no, don't do that. They're not connected. These are two separate verses. But
Silent
Witness
from Milwaukee. Okay, yeah. Neat.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, if the Lane 222 verse is the correct pairing for Milwaukee, this is an area that I'm at least interested in. I also kind of, you know, liked if the painting was based off of this statue, you know, there's some similarities I think between the woman in the painting and the statue. Not a ton, but maybe, you know, there could be something there. Mostly the cloak And then she's holding two different things too. You know, you've got those two red balls that she's juggling in the painting.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, you know, does it have anything to do with it? Maybe, probably not, but I captured the pictures because it was an area of interest to me.
Well, it's never bad to keep other things in mind because, like you said, hasn't been found, and at this point, it could be anywhere. No matter how much you've got it pegged down to a spot. How many people had where Boston was ultimately found pegged down to the spot? I think maybe one or two.
Yeah, not many.
So
No.
maybe more, one or two, but like it was very few people were looking in the north end.
I know.
That's where it was. So
yeah, so that makes me think like, and I still like even when I look at Boston Solve, I'm like, how do you get there? Like I understand it when you get the back to the stairs part, and you know you're looking out at the baseball fields. Like I can picture all of that in my brain. But same thing with Milwaukee. Like if the Mitchell verse is right, I have no idea how you end up in Lake Park either. So it's like, I don't know. It's
well,
it's frustrating, but it's fun at the same time.
Oh yeah, it keeps your brain going, right? And like you said, you're just walking down the street and you see clues everywhere. But maybe someday I'll get a local from Boston on here with us for an episode of Secret Podcasque and chat about how they think you can get from wherever you start, because it could be the Boston Public Library, it could be somewhere else, and how you end up at Langone and Pupolo parks. Yeah, so we'll chat about that some other time, but it just goes to show, like, nobody was looking there, and guess where it was? It was right there.
Yeah.
All right, so what's this next image you got?
So this is an image that I shot with a borescope that I bought last year. So this is, as I mentioned earlier on the show, let me just back up and give a little bit of context here. So when I started getting interested in The Secret, people were like, a few members of the community had mentioned, you know, buying borescopes and soil probes and pushing down into the ground and taking photos of what might be down there. And I was like, what a great idea, because you can, you know, do all that without having to dig a big hole or run into, you know, it just seemed like a way more convenient way of checking your spot, your theory, you know? So I was like, oh, heck yeah, I am going to buy this thing and totally do this. And I did. So that's what you're looking at here. So this is in an area in Milwaukee that is very, very much talked about and related to the hunt. And it wasn't until I got to Milwaukee that I had the thought, and actually physically being there, I remember saying to my wife, I was just like, what if it's just right there? Like, you know, for some reason, what if he just like did this whole like verse thing, but the whole, like the treasure's actually buried in this spot, which everyone knows about. And so I had the borescope, but I didn't have a soil probe. So I ended up using an arrow that I had. I'm a bow hunter. So I took one of my arrows and shoved it up my sleeve, and I'm walking around hiding it like, just like a, you know, a goon, basically, hoping that no one sees me. And I use that to probe and make the hole. And what you're seeing here is the hole. I probably probed 4 or 5 times. It didn't hit anything until the 4th or 5th. And, you know, these are the pictures that you're seeing that I shot. So in this particular spot, I don't know what it is. You know, it could be a rock or whatever. But one thing that was interesting to me is that it's definitely at what you could consider to be a southern foot of something that is very well known to most Milwaukee searchers. And it, you know, definitely appears to have some reflective like properties there that seems similar to plexiglass. The main problem that I had with this, Dustin, is as I'm probing the hole, the dirt's just falling back down on whatever I'm hitting. So you can see, like, you know, whatever I'm hitting there, it's covered up by like a thin layer of dirt that was falling back down. And I think that was the challenge of really like identifying what it was, if it was something other than just, a rock or something pointless.
Yeah, it's really tough to get your hole to be super clear. You did a great job, I think, as far as making sure your endoscope was able to get down toward the bottom without having a whole bunch of excess dirt fall on top of it. So well done on that.
That was a challenge. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, looking at this, I can buy that it might be something like plexiglass, or you might have hit a buried piece of glass, or it might be just a shiny rock. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I've held a casque, like the box, and it's pretty thick. And I'm trying, like, in my mind, I'm looking at your image, and I'm trying to imagine, like, if what I held, because I held the Chicago casque with Rob let me hold it and take a bunch of pictures of it. I'm trying to imagine if that was buried in the ground and somebody probed down to it, what would they see? And
yeah,
I say maybe. It's hard to tell, but I mean, it's cool that you got an image like this. That's really cool.
Yeah. Again, I have no idea. It's probably not the casque. Maybe it is. I don't know.
You don't know. You don't know until you go and dig one day.
I know, but that's the problem. Like, I know you've said, but getting the permission is the challenge nowadays, it seems. That's the...
Oh man, I don't have my copy of The Secret, or else I'd read you something right now. Actually, I'm going to pull it up on I have the Kindle version of The Secret. One second, and then I'll see what I can find as far as that goes. So Byron Price, at the end of the book, there's a section that's called The Treasure, and it says, if you believe you have correctly deciphered the clues to any of the fair people's 12 treasures, you may proceed directly to that site you have determined. Every treasure casque is buried underground at a depth of no more than 3 to 3.5 feet. The casks are protected by lustrous, transparent boxes and are sealed. I don't know. I have permission. That's my permission slip right here from Byron Price himself.
I love it.
It literally says you have permission to go directly, go retrieve it. So, like I said, just make sure that you're respectful to the grounds and return it to a state equal to or better than when you arrived.
Yeah. Yep.
So
fully agree.
Yep. So you gave me this image. What are you trying to illustrate here?
Yeah. So these are some of the things that I picked up on that, like, in my brain, it kind of makes sense that this might be a connection. But I also want to talk a little bit about, like, confirmation bias too, because I think we run into this a lot in The Secret, where, like, everyone has agreed that, like, oh, this one clue has to be this exact thing, right? But like, for example, here, like, the outline of the road that goes through Lake Park, I'm like, okay, that kind of follows, like, her head, and then it goes down, I can kind of see, like, where the cape comes up on the back, like, it almost resembles, like, the very end of the Lake Park, where it starts to turn and head back up north towards Lake Drive there. So anyway, that's just, like, one connection that I made. If you want to go to the next image, I've got a few in here that I just want to talk about.
Yeah, so this will be available to audio only listeners as well. So I just want to describe it a little bit more. He overlaid the painting on top of a portion of Lake Park where it lines up with, it could potentially line up with shapes in the imagery, and that's what we're seeing here.
Right.
All right. Next image is one of my favorites. I've seen some of this before. Go ahead and explain this. You
have seen this before? Oh, okay. Because this was something that I picked up that I didn't know was out there.
No, you discovered something that I think is legit. My wife also picked up on it a couple years ago.
Okay. Yeah. So, interesting. The key that's in the painting that the juggler's juggling really strongly resemble. There's two parts of it: the handle and the other side. What would you call that? I guess the teeth of the key. Yeah. They really resemble the bistro and the grand staircase. Like, you've got where the grand staircase opens up, and you can either go left or right. It it's got that big circle there, and even like next to the circle, there's that like little bar that almost resembles the top of like the landing where you would get to at the top of the staircase.
Mm-hmm.
And then the key itself, like on the bottom, like where the teeth are, that looks a lot like the bistro, the building that's right at the top of the staircase, from an overhead view at least.
Yeah.
So
I completely buy that. I think that's a great match, and I'm glad that you were able to find it independently as well, because it's cool. I mean, it doesn't mean that that's what it is, but it sure looks like it to me.
Yeah, for sure. So like and back to confirmation bias, right? I'm like, oh, this is definitely like indicating the grand staircase, but maybe JJP was just like, oh, I'm just going to paint a key, like it doesn't actually mean anything.
Milwaukee, right?
Yeah. Right.
But if he's looking like if Byron Price sends John Palancar a pamphlet about Lake Park, that like a brochure, and it has a little map in it, and it shows like a drawing, even if it's just a drawing, but it's an overhead view of like the park or whatever, he can just mimic some of that into his imagery. And he probably did that pretty often because he wasn't there at all these sites, so he has to draw upon whatever inspiration Byron gives him.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. All right. So here you have a portion of I don't know what do we call this section of the book? I kind of call it some of the rules, like but I don't know if they're actually rules.
Yeah, I don't. I've never had to like actually reference this part of the book before, but you've got this. So I think it's right before the first painting and right after the last painting, right? You've got
these panels that say, like this one in particular says, a dozen paintings share the clues, yet fairy secrets come in twos. To sing a happy treasure song, to have a casque to you belong. Wed one picture with one verse, for fair folks' peace, goodness first.
Yeah. So I always thought this was interesting to hear him say, to sing a happy treasure song, to have a casque to you belong. So like I just thought to myself, maybe like singing or music is part of one of the puzzles, or two of them, if fairy secrets come in twos, right? So what I've got lined up next to it is they're the 9 muses. And what's interesting to me, like the 5th one is Melpomene, I think that's how you pronounce it, who is the muse for singing and representing tragedy. And if you want to skip over to the next slide, there's sculptures of this muse that do really look kind of similar to the lady in the painting too. You can see her hair like above it, like even just the way that her orientation, she's like holding something and looking off to the side, and it's to me it's very similar. So I was just thinking, is it connected? I don't know. I haven't been able to find anything with it, so if you want to use that and run with it, go for it. And if you find the casque, give me props. I take tips.
Yeah, this is pretty impressive. Like, I don't know, maybe there's 1,000 different statues out there standing in a similar pose, but
Right.
I like your connections you're making, and this muse looks pretty, I don't know, pretty impeccable. I'll post some of these images, with your permission, of course. I'll post some of these images onto facebook.com/groups/the secret treasure hunt. And maybe we can, you guys can, audio only listeners can take a look at it so you can see what we're referring to. But there's some imagery that looks a lot like the juggler that we're seeing in painting 10 out of one of these sculptures of this muse. So that's pretty cool. I like it a lot.
The other thing that was interesting to me, Dustin, is if you go back to the last picture too, to sing a happy treasure song is the 5th line on that page.
Yeah.
And Melpomene means the 5th muse, right? So there's a little connection there. I'm thinking like, okay, the proud tall 5th, maybe it is, maybe it's not. I don't know. I know other people have kind of theorized about the proud tall 5th being related to music. I've seen that before. like a perfect fifth, or like maybe it's representing notes or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like there's there's a lot of different ideas out there. This is a unique one. I've never seen it before, and I'm digging it. I don't know that it's right, but it's definitely worth looking into and pursuing. So thanks for sharing that with us.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Love it. I learned something new today, so that's cool.
Cool.
Yeah. What else is that? Oh, we got something fun to talk about. What'd you get for Christmas?
So I mentioned to you before, I'm walking around like an idiot with an arrow shoved up my sleeve, hoping no one sees me so I can probe the ground, since I didn't have a soil probe. And not that I could get away with bringing a soil probe around too, but this is what my wife bought me for Christmas. I just walked downstairs in the morning. I just noticed this next to the tree. I'm like, oh, I wonder what that is. It's just humorous to me. Yeah.
What a great gift. Is your wife into The Secret?
My wife puts up with The Secret. So she it's funny, I was talking to her about it this morning. She really hates talking about it because I talk about it too much. But she like understands a lot of like the general ideas behind it. And going to Milwaukee with me, she put up with my brain going all over the place as we're walking around. And so I think she doesn't necessarily enjoy it, but she tolerates it.
That's cool. My wife is really into the treasure hunting hobby. She's not so into The Secret anymore. It's kind of like she'll put up with it too now. She likes to focus her attention on other treasure hunts. So
yeah, I do also. I just started actually your last guest, Sean. I just picked up his book, and shout out to him and his team that put that one together. That's a really good book. Really cool children's book. There's some really good value to that beyond it just being or being a treasure hunt. I'd like it's a well-written story for kids. So
sweet. I'm still waiting for mine to arrive in the mail. But we've got it's also a $10,000 prize.
Yeah. So pretty sweet.
Yeah, for sure. So let me move on to the next image real quick that you shared. Okay, so this is you showing us your arrow and boroscope, huh?
Yeah, so this was my probing setup pre-Christmas. so
actually, how did the arrow work? Pretty good. Were you able to get down pretty easily?
I was. And I attribute that to the soil being in the condition, like easy to be able to get down, right? So like you're not going to be able to go just take an arrow. This is a pretty flexible arrow, like you're not gonna be able to just go probe anywhere where there's the ground's pretty solid. But this location, I was able to get down, and I think there's another picture that I shared with you too that kind of shows the depth for where I hit that object with it too. Yeah, so I'm marking it with my thumb in this picture, and it's right above where my thumb is. It's 18 inches down, which I thought was interesting because I think that lines up with some of the other ones that have been found, right? The top of the casque. So it says they're buried at no more than 3 to 3.5 feet, but that's the actual, like, that's the very bottom, like the bottom of the casque, right? So if you're probing, how far down is the top of that casque? And I think from hearing Rob and I don't know if someone else from one of the guys from Cleveland commented on it, but I thought they both agreed they weren't that far down.
Yeah, that's one of the toughest things about The Secret, in my opinion, because you got to like if Byron puts into what I had read earlier, like 3 to 3.5 feet in depth, you got to imagine one is at least 3 to 3.5 feet deep. Hopefully it's not the top of the box because it doesn't give specifics, and I don't know. That part scares me a little bit because, like, if you're only like, I'm glad you hit what you hit at your depth. That could be the top of the casque. I don't know. But for me, like, just thinking about the thing as a whole, one of them is probably buried where you're not going to touch the top of the casque until you get down to around 3 feet in depth. And for me, I would just assume any one of them that you're looking at for. If you hit something, shallower, great. But if you're not hitting something and you're not getting to 3 feet in depth, you might want to just keep trying, because give up on it if you're probing at at like 2.5 feet down and not hitting anything. It might not be going deep enough, because literally we don't know.
Right. Yep.
So, yeah, but I love your setup. That's cool that you took an arrow. I'm really glad that it was able to penetrate the earth so easily. Like my wife and I, we went to San Francisco, and it's so hard to probe there. Like, it's ridiculous. We had strong probes, and it's just like the sand, because Golden Gate Park used to be like all sand dunes, and then they put soil and it got mixed with each other, and they're able to grow trees and grass and stuff, but like it feels like concrete when you get down to about a foot. So
Gotcha.
I'm glad it was easy for you.
Yeah, it was. It worked out surprisingly well, so that was good. But excited to use the new present that I got. Really excited. I actually feel more passionate about a theory that I have for Roanoke than I do about what I actually hit in Milwaukee. So hoping to
Roanoke.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna do an episode about Roanoke next week. It's the reason I wanted to do Roanoke is because it's the January puzzle, and it's January, so I figure we might as well talk about it. Maybe that means we come back to this one at the end of February, because that's the February puzzle. But
there you go. Yeah,
it would be cool to touch on them during where the birthstone is represented for the month you're in. So we have a comment in the chat. This is from, let me see here. This is from Brandy. Brandy says, I think a bell has something to do with it. I see one in her right palm, and they're usually cast in copper. So I completely agree that there is a bell hidden in this imagery here. Can you see that?
Yeah, I do. And
yes, we got I don't even know what that's called, like a clinker, and then the bell shape, like in the palm of the hand. And I had noticed this a while back too, and I absolutely think that's got to be a thing. I don't know what it is.
I've noticed that in the past, but I've never made sense of it. I mean, I agree, Brandy. That's a great comment. It definitely looks like a bell. Has anyone found, like, do you know of anyone that's found that a bell or anything that's like, I know there's one, is it at the top of the city hall? There is one, isn't there? But it's like, I don't know if it looks like that or how it would play into the verse or whatever, but
yeah, I'm not sure either, but I think at Cathedral Square Park, I think they have bells at the church there too.
Do they? Okay.
So, yeah, thank you, Brandy, for that comment. I absolutely agree. So,
yeah, great point.
Yeah, you have any ideas about whatever this weird shape is? Looks like could be some sort of insect.
Yeah, it's very commonly referred to as a locust, which in my opinion is incorrect. It's actually a cicada nymph. If that's what I believe it to be. If you look up the images, they're two different things, and it definitely resembles a cicada nymph in my brain more so than a locust. So that's what I think that is, and I haven't really been able to make sense of how it's part of the puzzle. I was chatting with someone recently from the community that made a connection to an old clock that used to be in Milwaukee that I've seen referenced a couple times. I'm forgetting what it was called now, but is that, I don't know, maybe it is. A lot of people just attribute that part of the painting to meaning Locust Street, right? Because Locust Street is one of the streets that runs over to Lake Park. So
yeah.
The other thing that's interesting about this area is like just Byron was a fan of Masquerade, right? And one thing that always kind of stuck out to me about this painting that I still haven't been able to make sense of, and if it is part of the hunt, I hope someone else can use this. If you look at the general direction that she's gazing, she's looking through the millstone. She's looking like towards that cicada nymph or locust. And then on the very right side of the page there, you've got like it's still in her line of sight. You've got something that's on the right side of the painting. I've never seen anyone make a connection to what that is. It's like it almost looks like a sword or like half of a sword or something. I don't know what it is, but it made me think, just knowing that masquerade and like how that was solved with, you know, the animals pointing at the letters around the page, right? It made me think, like, what if she's looking right at the biggest clue and we're all just like overlooking it, but we can't, like, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I never given much thought to that. I've glanced at it and glossed over. I just said, could mean nothing, but you're right. It could mean everything.
Yeah.
So hard to know.
I try not to look at the paintings too much. I genuinely believe that the verse will lead you to the casque. The paintings are really there. Like, in my opinion, the paintings are there to give us an idea of the general location, not the exact location. And I know I say that with one caveat, because Chicago, they actually had the fence and fixture right where it was buried, right? But JJP himself said that that's not the case for all the paintings. So I genuinely do think some of the paintings, you know, if we've already identified this one's Milwaukee, maybe we've gotten the majority of the clues out of this one. I think people's time is better spent researching the verse and making connections there.
I feel you. I mean, I think we were definitely intended to discover out of the painting. You're going to Milwaukee, and then what do you do? And so I can understand you wanting to look more at the verse. Yeah, I mean, that's up to each individual searcher. I think when you're looking at this, just in general, you can see City Hall and you see the Milwaukee. And is that all is that truly all that you want to take out of this?
No, it's not. I think there's other clues in there, but I think, like, you know, a lot of them have been already identified, right? Like the birch. There's been a lot of conversation around like the tree trunks in her cape, right? Like there probably are some clues in there, but just especially hearing JJP say there's not a dead ring or like a X marks the spot. There isn't in all the paintings. So
but at the same time, John Palancar, you know, he was given binders or dossiers with all this stuff in it, and maybe Byron didn't give him everything. Like maybe Byron said, yeah, I need to make sure you get this lion into this image in your imagery somehow, some way. And he doesn't know that it's, 2 feet from the dig site, or if he, it's hard to know.
That's a great point. He might not even know.
Yeah. But maybe he does. I don't know. Maybe he knows everything and we're just, he's just telling us he doesn't.
I think that dude does. Yeah. I think he's lying to us. He knows more than he's willing to open up about.
So if that's the case, then how can you take his word on anything? Don't know.
I don't know. But
I know.
I thought it was really funny just seeing him on Expedition Unknown. Like after the Boston solved, right? He comes out like, and this is after he's already said, I don't know where the casques are or anything. Like, don't ask me questions. Don't bother me. And then he comes out and he's just like, oh, look here, it spells Boston right here. I did this and that. It's like, okay, you know what they're gonna do still. Oh
yeah, he remembers. This was a pretty involved project, right? So
for sure.
Like it's kind of like Byron himself. He went out and buried 12 of these things. Some people think 13 even, but he buried at least 12 of these things out there across North America. And if you're gonna make a really like complicated and detailed puzzle, you might forget a couple of things, like very small details, but you're gonna remember exactly where you buried the thing.
Yeah,
in my opinion. At least like within a 5-foot circle.
Yeah.
So, well, that kind of gets us through everything. Do you have anything else you want to chat about concerning Milwaukee?
No, I guess not really. Yeah, I'm happy to collaborate with anyone from the community. If you want to reach out and talk through some things or shoot ideas back and forth, my door is open.
That's great to hear. Collaboration is going to get these things found. So
Yep.
Appreciate you being willing to do such a thing. All right, so we're going to go to toward we're going to be wrapping up here. I'm glad. No offense against my other guests I've had before. We've gone like almost 3 hours for each of the these live streams, and that was those were really long, but they were really fun.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we're going to keep it somewhere around an hour today. I do want to get with you now with my 12 questions for 12 paintings, 12 verses, 12 questions, and are you ready for them?
Yes.
All right. So rapid fire as much as possible. You can go in as much detail as you want to, but let's keep it moving along if we can. All right. So which of the 12 puzzles of The Secret is your favorite?
Probably Roanoke. I've spent more time working on Milwaukee and then just kind of gave up and moved on to Roanoke. And I think I believe that I was able to uncover more there. But that's all that could come back to confirmation bias and being wrong again. So we'll see. Time will tell.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites as well.
Yeah.
So which casque do you think will be the next retrieved?
So that's an interesting question because I would have said Roanoke before a week or two ago, but there's members in the community right now that are making some really cool connections in Charleston. And I really believe that they might be onto something, and we might be seeing that as the next one to get unearthed, if any do. But there's some really interesting connections around in what is it, White Point Garden? Is that what it's called in Charleston?
Yeah.
So I take my hat off or tip my hat to the community members who have kind of pieced some of those details together. That's a good job.
All right, I'm glad to hear. Excited to see somebody pull that one up.
Yeah.
All right, so let's. I'm going to ask you which cats you think will be hardest to find.
New York. Yeah, like you said, New York is just massive, and I've tried running through theories of where I think it could be, and there's definitely some good theories that are out there, but at the end of the day, I'm just like, oh man, this is just a nightmare trying to solve this thing. Is it in Manhattan? Is it in a different suburb? Like where could it be? It's close to an Isle of B, or wherever you can see an Isle of B, or gaze towards it, whatever that is.
It's ridiculous. There's so many possibilities there. So I feel you. All right. So which puzzle do you think people are most off the mark with?
I think probably New Orleans. I think just from what I've researched, there's a lot of conversation around areas that don't make sense in my brain as much as they do to others. But that's just from some of the things that I've done. And I've actually put out some of the connections that I've made on one or two of the Facebook groups. But specifically for New Orleans, you have a statue of 3 different individuals in the middle of 21 windows at what is that building called? It's a building around transportation or something in the French Quarter. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Off the top of my head.
There's this building, and you literally have, like, if you're using the verse, I forgot what number it is now, but the one that starts at the place where jewels abound, right?
Mm-hmm.
You literally, and I think back to some of the other solves or solutions that we've seen, like one step up you can hop, or in the middle of, how you're counting, like in Cleveland, they're counting the columns, right? So we know, like, he's visually, when he hid these things, he might be visually looking at something and saying, okay, as you're like from the dig spot, if you're like looking in this direction, it's in the middle of this, right? And in New Orleans, you have a statue. It's been moved since then, but in 1982, it was right in front, in the very center of that building, and there's 21 windows on the building. So personally, I think it's somewhere over there, but I don't know.
Sweet. Yeah, I mean, it sounds good. I'd need to look into that. I think that one's my pick for the next one found.
Oh, really? Okay.
As much as you seem to not believe in it, but that's cool. Yeah, right on. So, hey, what would be the first thing you do if you found a casque?
Probably either throw up or cry, and I'm not sure which one it is.
A little bit of both.
Yeah, probably both.
Yeah,
I'm really excited.
I hope you just cry and then send me a message and some other people just to let us to know.
Yeah.
All right. So which Expedition Unknown episode about the secret was your favorite?
So my favorite, I loved, everything that show's done for this hunt. I think it's they really captured the essence behind it and made it exciting again, right? It kind of put a refresh on the hunt. But the one that really got me thinking about it differently was the most recent one, the Boston Solve. Because you get to actually see like these hunters come together, right? Like they got the guys from Chicago, they got the guys from Cleveland to come on down and like celebrate and get together, not only with the finder, but with Byron's family and JJP. And, what's that? Oh, sorry, I thought you said something.
I didn't say it.
But yeah, I think that episode in particular, it's so interesting to me just to see like, how for me, part of the hunt is more, it's not necessarily like the value in finding the casque or getting the gemstone, but paying tribute to this man's life and his legacy, right? And you can see in that episode that it's really impactful to his family. Like they're, they everything. I'm sure they just get memories and flashbacks of their, the girls and their dad, as like when they're talking about the solution and kind of walking through what he did. And I thought it was just a really, it had a different perspective than the other episode or two. The prior one, it was like, oh, this is really meaningful to these people, and that's part of what keeps me so interested in this hunt particularly, is that there's people that genuinely like, it means a lot to them, and it means a lot to people who knew Byron. So
I feel that I've dug in New York twice, and I've always said, like, if I found that casque, like I would make sure that it finds its way to the Price family, because I think Byron, I think his daughters especially and his wife would really appreciate that. And that was probably the most special puzzle to him because it's his hometown. So, but got to find it first.
Right. That's
the next question is, what North American city that isn't widely considered to be part of the secret would you want to hide a casque yourself in?
I don't even know if I have an answer to this. I mean, I'm from Michigan, so I'd probably pick somewhere in Michigan. When I first heard about this hunt, I was like frustrated because I'm like, man, well, we don't know for sure, but it's theorized. We have the general locations of these all figured out. There's nothing in Michigan. I'd probably pick somewhere in the Upper Peninsula. I love Michigan's Upper Peninsula. I think it's beautiful, and maybe Marquette, Michigan. We'll just go with that.
Okay. Yeah, there's people that think there's one in Detroit, so
that's true. Yeah, they do.
Yeah, so I guess hopefully they can go and find it. That'd be really good, and good luck on that. All right, so let's see. The next question is, what cultural or immigration connections to the secret has been your favorite to learn about while studying its connections to the secret?
The English. Yeah, so the Roanoke connection there. Just learning about the lost colony and that whole, like, I'll just be honest, like I was completely like clueless to like all of that history, and just reading it and getting to learn about it, I thought was really cool, and it definitely plays into the puzzle, like the verse that's commonly associated with that puzzle. You've got the where white is in color as referencing John, John White. But yeah, I don't need to really elaborate anymore. But yeah, I would say the English culture.
Yeah, John White, like my 24th great grandfather once removed. No, just
yeah.
I'm just messing though. No relation. No. All right. So if you had free reign to go dig right now in any city that you wanted, which one would you pick?
It would be Roanoke. Yeah. So
you got a spot there then, huh?
Yeah, I do.
Because I don't know, you're over in Milwaukee probing and boroscoping something that could be a casque. You wouldn't just jump right on that, huh?
No, because the location where that was, I mean, maybe I will dig it. I don't know. I'm not necessarily comfortable going out there and digging, just from what I've heard with some of the park authorities, their perspective on it and that kind of thing. The location where that object was is very, very obvious and would be impossible to get away with unless you did it at night. Which, yeah, I mean, maybe I will one day. We'll see.
Yeah. Right on. All right. So, which is your favorite of the descendants of the fair people in The Secret? And do you believe that they hold clues to help find casques?
Oh gosh. No, I don't believe they have clues to the cast specifically. I think so like when I first got involved with The Secret, I was flipping through that section and I'm like, oh, this must be a clue and this must be a clue and that and this. And there's definitely stuff in the back that seems like it makes sense and could be clues, but I don't know if it's, my take on it is I think they're red herrings, and I don't necessarily have a favorite out of them. They're just, I think that portion was used for entertainment more than anything.
A lot of people do. All you basically need is the verses and the paintings. So, I mean, yeah,
Well,
but there might be little nods in there too. Byron is noted as editor of The Secret, so developed by and edited by Byron Price, I think it says at the beginning. So
that's true. Maybe he did sneak something in that section then. Who knows?
Maybe. All right. So 2 more questions left. Which is your favorite image match from the art of John Palancar in The Secret when comparing it to what it might represent in real life?
Oh, yeah, I don't really know if I have an answer to that question. There's, so in Milwaukee, for example, that painting, you've got the City Hall. That's a dead ringer for the City Hall in Milwaukee. I don't know if I necessarily have a favorite. JJP, he's very, very talented, and he's incredible at hiding details in his paintings. So just, I guess, some of the subtle things in there. So, for example, when he spelled out Boston, and the various objects in the Boston painting, that was cool to me. I was like, oh, wow, this dude actually thought about that. And, if you hadn't, I would have never thought to look for it. But, now that he's pointed it out and kind of shown us, that's one of my favorites.
Very cool. All right. Well, thanks for answering that question. The last one is, if you could ask Byron Price one question, what would it be?
Other than where's the casque? Where are the rest of the casques? No, if I could ask him one thing, it would be, what did, I think his name was Johan or one of the old people, really the searchers who had been looking at this for a long time emailed him when he was still alive, and he responded to a couple things. It seems like he confirmed Houston in one communication as being a location, and it almost sounded like he confirmed St. Louis, which was misspelled in that email as St. Louis. So my question would be asking him for clarity around, are there casques in Houston, Texas, or is there one in St. Louis, Missouri. A lot of people think there's one in St. Louis, and there's a back and forth there. A lot of people are like, "Oh, is it Montreal? Is it St. Louis?" I personally do think it's Montreal, but I know there's a big community of searchers in St. Louis, and there's good reasons for that too. If you look at that painting.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 1,000%. I hope to talk to somebody that wants to elaborate on their St. Louis ideas with me some point, because I'd love to be educated. I've looked at some of it. I can't get into it personally, but that doesn't mean it's what they're presenting is incorrect. So I'd love to talk to them sometime.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for answering the 12 questions there. And if you look on the screen, I have some a path towards some lions. It look like this lion over here on the left. This will be on the southern part of the Oak Leaf Trail. I think that's the one you took a picture of, where you have the lighthouse in the back. Yeah. I think the lion on the right is where James Renner and Josh Gates were looking at the lion and said, she's a lion, that moment in the first expedition. And then they went to dig at the opposite lion on the other side. If that's lion number, we'll call this lion number 2. The one on the left is number 1. They would have dug it like lion number 7 in the opposite corner, because that's the southernmost, and that would make a lot of sense too. So,
it would.
Yeah, it's hard to know.
Mm-hmm. Do you know like how many of those lions have been dug? Like how many of them have been dug around the lion? I'm guessing a lot. Yeah, maybe even all of them at this point. But
I would guess each one of them. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that John Michaels was a big fan for a while of the lions in the middle. And the one that I'm talking about, that James Renner and Josh Gates dug at, that's opposite this section. That was where I saw a big, probably foot deep hole, unfilled, the night that I was there. And whoever dug that didn't, they went down 1 foot. I mean, it's not even deep enough to come to the top of a casque, if potentially. So it's too bad, because there's a lot. There's holes like that everywhere. When I went to Boston before it was found, and my wife and I were walking around this area that was a real hot spot beforehand. It's called the 2 Circles, and there was I don't know, probably like 7 holes that we saw in that area that were just like dug, left. People said, not here, and just walked away. So I think that's super disrespectful, and that's definitely not what Byron Price would have wanted or expected out of any of us. So I think, if you're ever going to dig, just treat the land as good as you can and restore it to how it looked before. There's a way to dig a hole, remove the grass part, and keep it intact, and then do your digging, and then replace the grass right back on top of it. That's what needs to be done. So,
bingo. Yep.
All right. So, Paul, is there anything else? You said that people can reach out to you to collaborate. So just find you on Facebook, or do you have Twitter as well?
Yeah, I do have a Twitter. I don't really use it, but I'm, pretty active in the Facebook community. I don't always post or comment, but
sure.
I'm actively involved in my own hunt searches, and I'd love to collaborate. If anyone wants to reach out, I'm happy to bounce ideas around.
Sweet. All right. Well, I guess that's it for today. I just want to say, Paul, thank you so much for joining us on Secret Podcast today. I think this is a great conversation about a really fun city, and one that's really near and dear to the heart of the creator of the Secret Podcast. So I was happy that we can kind of begin our march through all of the puzzles, because we're going to hopefully hit them all a couple times a year, and talk about John Michael's favorite, and
for sure,
Milwaukee. So that's it. So I'm going to go ahead and play us out. But if you would like to be a future guest, please reach out to me on email through, you just go to secretpodcasque@gmail.com, and we can arrange it. I've got somebody set up next week for Roanoke. So be on the lookout for that. And until then, take it easy and keep searching.
Thanks for listening to Secret Podcasque. We are not affiliated with the website 12 Treasures, Pokemon Go, New Coke, The Clapper, MC Hammer, My Sleep Pillow, Reebok Pumps, or anything colored in mauve or fuchsia. Secret Podcasque is full of vitamins, contains no trans fat, has 0 calories, no additives or preservatives. It's all natural, farm to table, and is organically sourced to provide you with the maximum entertainment. Join in the conversation on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/The Secret A Treasure Hunt, all one word.